We're here today with four-time Rodeo Clown of the Year, Mr. Lecile Harris, who is such a sweet man. And for all you folks out there that know him, you'll know I'm telling the truth. You're not just a funny man in a can, though. There's a lot more to Lecile Harris than we probably any of us really know.
Well, probably nobody's old enough to know the front end of the deal. So,
You've been doing this a lot of years.
Yes. I started in 1955.
Wow.
I had a football scholarship to the University of Tennessee at Martin, and I was looking for something in the summer just to kill time until football camp started. And a buddy and I went to watch a little afternoon rodeo, and I went over there, and actually we were looking for girls, and I went over there and the bull riding was going on. So I got to watching that, and I thought, boy, I'd really like to try that. Well, you could have two sections. You could enter the first section or the section at the end, and it was all a jackpot. Mm-hmm. $5 entry fees, and of course everybody there wanted to loan me their rope because they wanted my $5. So I got on one, and the bull wasn't any good and just kind of didn't do anything, and I almost rode him. Mm-hmm. And I thought, boy, if it's that easy, but in 2 months I'll be world champion. Or
you were hooked.
Oh, I was hooked. So then I told my buddy, I said, the next Sunday, right back over there, I was. And I had made my $5 that week, and I had my entry fee. So I went over there, and this time I think I drew the worst bull in her. The gate wasn't even open real good, and he slung me out of there and tore my shirt off. And just eat my lunch. But that just made me mad. So the next week I went back. I was determined to learn to ride bulls. So about the fourth week I went over there, and I kept watching the bullfighters. Mm-hmm. I really liked actually it was only one. And I kept watching them, and I thought, that's got to be fun. That's got to really be a neat deal. And I was raised on a farm and around cattle, so I was pretty much had some cattle sense. Mm-hmm. So one Sunday he didn't show up, and I volunteered to fight bulls, and that was 51 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, and so many people don't know, because I've been in the business so long. Mm-hmm. I fought bulls for 36 years, and that was the first half of my career. Mm-hmm. And so many people don't know the last part has just been comedy. But whenever back then when you learned to fight bulls, you had to learn comedy. If you didn't learn comedy, if you couldn't do the comedy, you didn't get a job no matter how good you fought bulls.
Right, you had to do more than one thing.
You had to do both, yeah. And I figured out right on the front end that you could get paid for fighting bulls, or you could get paid for the comedy, or you could get both checks.
That's right.
Yeah, that was a no-brainer. So, and because I worked on comedy so long then, when I did retire from fighting bulls, and I retired when I was 52, I think, or something like that. And when I did retire, it was just straight comedy then. And so it's not, and fighting bulls, learning to fight bulls was so much easier than learning comedy. Really? Oh, yes. I learned to fight bulls pretty good in a couple of 3 years.
Wow.
And I'm still studying comedy. Comedy will whip you. There's nothing like, you can go out there and a bull will run over you, and you get a little bit of glory when they take you out on the stretcher or whatever. Boy, when you walk out there with a piece of comedy and it don't work, you just want to dig a hole. There's no
they
glory.
Want you to,
yeah.
And they'll cover you up. They'll give you the dirt.
Yeah. There's no covering that up. It's just out there for everybody to see.
Now, when you were fighting bulls, did you ever get hurt really bad?
Oh yeah, yeah. I've had my back broken twice. I've had over 100 fractures.
And you still kept coming back.
Yeah, I loved it. I actually loved it. And at the time, when I first started in playing college football, a lot of my moves I put into my, but I wasn't in the country. I was east of the Mississippi River, so I wasn't in the country where I could see other bullfighters. So I didn't know how they fought bulls. So my way of fighting bulls was really unorthodox. It was really different from anybody else's. So when I did come across the river and did get into the real rodeo business, my style was so different.
Really set you apart.
It did, and it helped me greatly because even my fighting bulls had comedy in it, and so it helped me a lot. And like I was talking before, being a musician, I was recorded for Sun Recording Company in Memphis and High and all of that back, and for like 9 years or 10 years in there. I played music every night, 7 nights a week, and 2 tea dances.
Now, were you the lead singer of your band?
I really wasn't a musician. I was a drummer.
Oh, that's right. You're the guy that hung around with the musicians.
That's right, good music.
Right.
No, I couldn't sing. I always kept the band together. I was always the biggest and the meanest, and I kept them straight. That was only, they'd want to quit and I wouldn't let them.
Now, did you play sessions over at Sun?
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow. Who'd you
Yeah.
play sessions with?
Well, I played with a lot of them. Ray Harris and I had a group over there that we played a lot with people like not Roy Orbison, Rudy Richardson and all of those guys. I was there, but didn't actually play. One of the best stories, I was in the studio one time and they brought this guy from Tupelo in there that was driving a truck and brought him in there and said they needed a band. He had just cut a song, and we had just gotten off the road, and we were whipped. I mean, just whipped. And we were in the studio that day. It was one Sunday. We was in the studio that day cutting a record, and they came in and said, "We need a band for this guy. You know, he needs to go on the road." So they brought me, introduced so on and so forth. And this guy had long black hair and greasy, and we all had T-shirts on and blue jeans and packets of Luckies rolled up in our sleeve, crew cuts. All of this kind of thing, and we just said, you know, this guy ain't gonna make it. It was Presley, it was Elvis. So, and we said, you know, nobody wants to do this. The only one in our band who was Bill Black. He played bass for us. He was the only one in the band that eventually did go in. Anyway, we decided not to go. He just wasn't gonna make it. About a month after that, we were sitting in this studio there. It was called Sun Cafe. It sat right in the corner, and we were over eating a cheese between sessions.
And you heard That's All Right, Mama, come on the radio?
No, we had this little black and white TV sitting up in the corner one Sunday, and Ed Sullivan's show come on.
Oh, no.
And Tiny Dixon, our lead guitar player, was sitting there, you know, he's looking at me, he said, "Lecile, ain't that long-haired guy right there that come in and wanted us to be in the band with us?" I said, "Yes, it is." Anyway, they introduced me to Elvis Presley, and
That's one of those things you just kick yourself in the rear end for, right?
Well, yeah, outlasted him. That's
That's right.
I got something to look forward to, you know. But
right.
Yeah, and I don't know whether I would have liked that. Bill went on with him. Our bass player went on with him, and it burned him out. So and I was beginning to burn out in music then, and rodeo was such a clean sport that I wanted to get into it, and I wanted to do that. You know,
it really is. And you know the difference between the music business and the rodeo business. You know, the music business is a cutthroat business. And,
exactly.
You know, the rodeo business is a family, and everyone roots for each other, and they're there for support. And I'll tell you what, that is the best atmosphere to be in.
Well, it is. It's. I mean, how many other sporting events are you going to see when it's a one-on-one thing when you've got one of the competitors helping another one try to beat him? Just like these guys will pull a rope for their buddy that's going to try to beat him, or tell him about a horse it's what he's going to do. You know, you just don't see that. I mean, that's like going, you know, to a football game and the running back going over on the other side telling the defensive player, "Now I'm going to go around the right end."
Yeah.
You know,
and be ready for this one.
Right. Here it comes. I'm coming.
That's right.
It's just no other business like it. And I've been in all kinds of businesses. I've had printing business, sign companies, and construction companies, but this has always been my basis. And this is my
Well, and then you, being the rodeo clown, you put your life on the line to try and save those guys when they're coming off the bulls. They get hung up or something like that. You don't even think of yourself.
No,
you know?
well, you can't. You don't have time to think. It just gets to be automatic. I told a guy one time. He asked me what it was like, and I said, "Why don't you not stop and think? You know, whatever." I said, "Well, it gets to be such a habit that when you're driving down the road and you see maybe another car fixing to pull out in front of a car, you have a tendency to pull your car in between them, you know, to stop them from getting a lick. And that's a dangerous way to think. Yeah. But that's what it's like. That's what it's like. It's just there's a wreck fixing to happen and you go jump in it. And I loved it, and I really miss it. I still miss it. Of course, I'll be 70 in November, and at 70 I got but I did fight bulls like 2 years ago.
You did?
Yeah, fought bulls at Pueblo 2 years ago.
Oh, my.
And about 2 years ago, I guess at Waco fought bulls.
Oh, my.
The whole section. Yeah, and
But you stay in great shape. You were telling me earlier that, 6 o'clock this morning you were in the gym.
Every morning.
And I'm sleeping at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, but you don't got a problem.
I'm living vicariously through you.
But you're not 70.
There's so many things to your life. Not only have you been in the rodeo business, but, you were on TV. This isn't your first go-around with television.
No.
You did hee-haw for a lot of years.
Yep. I was on hee-haw for 7 years and have done quite a few movies. And the hee-haw was the reason I got the movies, actually. And we did all of another guy and I by the name of Jimmy Moore did all the outside comedy for hee-haw. All of the running around, the undercranked, what we call undercranked, Probably people don't understand what that is, but it's the Benny Hill type moves and type thing. We did all of those and loved it. And the reason it was so easy for us was because Hee Haw was a country show. It was a hillbilly show, and we were hillbillies. So we could write our own stuff, and our own stuff was real. It was stuff that hillbillies
You lived
do.
that already.
Yeah, right. The stuff that
You knew
hillbillies
someone
do.
down the road that had done this thing that morning.
Exactly. And that's what I do. And when we were doing the Hee Haw things, Jimmy and I used to sit down when we start writing. We'd say, what we want to do is write something that when the bit was over with, that the guy sitting there in the living room would punch his wife and say, I know a fella did that same thing. Well, that's what it is, my comedy in the arena now. I like to put together comedy that when I get through with a bit or when I get through with a story, because I don't tell jokes per se, they're stories. And like Hadley and I just talk back and forth, and Randy is so good at that too. But it's when you get to that point, you want to be able them to laugh, and you punch this guy and say, I knew a guy that did the same thing, was just like that. I know a guy just like that. And
They'll remember stuff like that.
Yeah, that's what brings it back home to them.
That's right. It's relatable. So, okay, for the kids that want to grow up and be a rodeo clown, grow up just be like Lecile Harris, what kind of stuff do you have to say to them?
Buy them some golf clubs. I've had a great career. It couldn't be any better, I don't think. You have to study your craft. Fortunately for me, there was no bullfighting schools, so I didn't learn and get into a pattern. Now they have bullfighting schools, and that's the place to go to learn because it's a lot safer. Comedy is where it's at. Comedy is where the money is. There's 9 million bullfighters out there on the corner waiting for a job. There's very few comedy people. And but you have to study your craft. You have to study it every day. I read from 1,000 to 2,000 jokes per week.
Wow.
Trying to find one that I can turn around and make it fit me. And maybe find 1 or 2 a week out of it, and you try them, and maybe one works, maybe one doesn't.
So you got to keep your act fresh too, because
you got to be up to date.
Constantly change it, you know. And
right. And so many clowns wonder why they're not getting jobs anymore, and they're going back and they're using jokes that they were used in the 70s or 80s or whatever, and stories, and it just doesn't work. And they wait till they get to the rodeo, and stock contractor says, well, what do you got new? Well, I don't have anything new. It's the same old deal. So you have to keep turning it on. It's just like a business. And if you don't treat it like a business, you're going to get left behind.
That's right. That's the key to having a long career.
You can't last 50 years without being ready.
That's right. That's right. Well, those are some wise words for the youngsters growing up. Yeah. We want to thank Lecile Harris for being with us here at Beyond Rodeo. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, Susie.